Ladies and gentlemen, due to the fact that my video got cut off, I'm going to redo this video as well as my video on Kelly Goodlett that pled guilty to the death of Breonna Taylor by lying to get a search warrant. So let's get into this. The life expectancy we know has been on a decline for quite some time here in the US, but really it's a global thing. But we're going to talk about what's going on in the United States. So, life expectancy has dropped in every single state, all 50 states and DC in 2020. So, it's a lot of factors that played into why the life expectancy dropped the way that it did. And it's very significant, ladies and gentlemen. And believe it or not, other countries did not suffer a life expectancy drop like the US did. The US definitely is the leader on the planet. So let's get into this story. So, the life expectancy in the US have not been going so well in the 21st century. Absolutely not. So from 2019 to 2020, the life expectancy dropped in all 50 states and Washington, D.C., about 1.8 years. 1.8 years. And that's within a 1 year period. So, this is according to a new CDC report that shows some regions were hit harder than others. And they're saying that is due to the pandemic that hit in 2020. You know, a lot of people got taken out, a lot more than they are telling us, because that's what the US does. The US will lowball numbers and make you believe that things are not as bad as they obviously are. And that's why, if you go back to that live stream that I did on the obituaries. That's why I showed that to you. Because, see, they were trying to paint this narrative that we get it in the Black community more than anyone else. But those obituaries told a whole different story. It was not us as the biggest ones in the obituary, but this media sat up there and said we were dying the most. And I remember those stories, and those stories still can be found out there. We were dying the most, but when I went to those obituaries, oh no, it wasn't our faces that we saw. It definitely wasn't us. So if you don't look into those kind of things, you'll sit and tend to believe them. But this life expectancy drop is also telling a whole different story. So the biggest decrease in life expectancy was found in New York. Now, if you go back and remember, New York got hit the worst in the beginning of the pandemic. We heard about floods of people going into the hospital. We heard about tons of them dying. We even saw them putting them in mass graves over there. And remember, they were also going house by house to look for the bodies. I mean, we remember this. So it is not shocking that in a 1 year period, the life expectancy in New York dropped by 3 years. 3 years, y'all. That is a very significant drop. Look, 1.8 is a significant drop in a 1 year period. But this is what's going on in the US. So you got the suicides, you got the drug overdose, and you got the pandemic all happening simultaneously. So the state that suffered the smallest decline was Hawaii at zero point 0.2. Okay, so that's really very minor. Zero point 0.2. So the changes were mostly due to the pandemic, an increase in unintentional drug overdose deaths and suicides, according to the report. This doesn't mean that that people are necessarily living shorter lives, but what it does mean is there was a major increase in deaths during 2020. Okay. So that's why the life expectancy dropped the way that it did. Remember, you got to have more people born than dying in order to have an increase in in order to have an increase in life expectancy. And America has not experienced that in quite a while. Not all groups. We know which group. So, anyway, let's move on. So, the findings, which are based on 2020 mortality records and population estimates, are more of a reflection of the deaths that occurred in the 2020 time period and less of a forecast that they're just guessing. An expert who studied population health statistics, who wasn't involved in the report, said this is historically unprecedented. We haven't seen drops in life expectancy at this scale since World War II. And it is important because people sometimes don't think these numbers sound very big, especially when you're talking about fractional decreases in life expectancy. But no, it is very significant, y'all. It really is, especially in New York, because they were hit the hardest during the pandemic in the beginning and 2020. And we heard about it every day. We saw Governor at that time, Cuomo, doing daily press conferences, talking about how bad it was and how desperate they were in need of nurses coming into the state from other states and helping out. All right. So, other states that got hit pretty bad was DC, Louisiana, New Jersey, Arizona, and Mississippi. Also experienced high death tolls overall in 2020, and they had the next largest drop in life expectancy. The biggest fine, state that escaped a big loss in life expectancy was Hawaii, and then followed by Hawaii was Alaska. This is according to Robert Anderson, chief of the Mortality Statistic Branch at the CDC. So, who supervised the study. On a population scale, it's actually quite large and represents a lot of premature mortality. Yes, because we did see a lot of young people lose their life during the pandemic, a lot. So, yet many places saw a decline, weren't involved in, but some places got hit more with a drop because of drug addiction than others. And it's always been that way, y'all. So, ladies and gentlemen, generally the southern states like Alabama, Kentucky, and South Carolina saw the lowest life expectancies in 2020. And the western and northeastern states like California, Oregon, Connecticut, and Vermont saw the highest. And its trend that goes back decades, Wolf said, primarily because of state specific public health policy decisions, such as the expansion of Medicaid. Overall life expectancy in the US in 2020 was 77 years. 47 years for men and 79 years for women, which wasn't that impressive compared to other wealthy countries. So they're saying other wealthy nations, the life expectancy is even higher. They live even longer than you would live here in the US. But the US always try to make themselves seem like they are better than everybody else. But as you can see over the last few years, the pandemic has really pulled that band-aid off. It is not what you've seen. And you know, I did a video about a week ago. America leads the world in monkeypox. So that now the band-aid is off. There is no more covering up and trying to use this talk of greatness to blind everybody. So now, ladies and gentlemen, they're saying they found that the life expectancy in the US decreased by 1.87 years from 2019 to 2020 compared with other 21 high income countries. America's decrease is unrivaled. So it's more than any other developed nation. The decrease in mortality is the greatest in the US. You know, you notice how the US is now leading in the negative stuff. Anything negative, the US is leading in it. So the average decline in life expectancy in these other countries, other wealthy, developed countries, dropped in 2019 to 2020 to 0.58. So they did way better than the US. The new data adds the growing life expectancy gap between the US and other nations, which was flat or on a downward trend since about 2010, while other countries continue to increase. In fact, the life expectancy in the United States declined for 3 straight years from 2014 to 2017, the longest sustained decline since the influenza pandemic in 1918 to 1919, according to a 2021 report from the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, things are not what they seem. And of course, they're going to always try to make it seem like we are the ones in the Black community. We're the ones dying the most. But like I said, anytime they make those claims, I want you to make an effort to go to your obituaries. And I promise you, the obituary is not going to match what they're saying. Researchers say the gap is a result of increasing premature deaths in young and middle aged adults from drug overdose, obesity, type 2 diabetes, suicide, and other chronic diseases. It is a consequence of little attention the US has paid to educate poverty, income inequality, public transportation, affordable housing, social well being, and access to good health. Well, we know America's not focused on those things because they've been giving all the money away to the Ukraine. They've been assisting them in a way where they probably could increase their life expectancy if it wasn't for Russia going over there invading it. But they are caring for Ukraine. They are not caring for the people here. That's why you do have a housing and poverty and income inequality and all those things going on here because they are not worried about the people here. They're worried about the people elsewhere. Okay. So, of course, we know other countries have access to health care and all the necessities, that you would need in life. But they don't have that here in the US. They have this astronomical health care, and the health care is really not up to standard. So studies show that marginalized communities face, they got to always throw that in there. But if you just go to your local obituary to see who's in there, and I promise you, you won't see our faces in there the most. Period. So, so in April, the study found that life expectancy dropped more than 3 years in certain areas of the country, finding that it reflects a disproportionate loss and vulnerability in certain areas of the country. than others. So we know Alaska and Hawaii has done the best through the entire year between 2019 and 2020. And then, of course, we know New York, with a 3-year drop in life expectancy, has done the worst. But overall, this is not looking good for a country that claimed to be so advanced. It's starting to look more like a third world country that got on makeup. That's what America is, a third world country with makeup on, trying to make you believe she's something that she's not. But y'all, please tell me what you think about this video. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.